Please don't fire me, the black cleaner whispered. The Korean Mafia billionaire froze, seeing her asleep. The silence was wrong. Kong Jun felt at the instant he stepped out of the private elevator and into the 49th floor of his penthouse, his floor sealed, monitored, untouched by anything that was not expected. Silence here was usually engineered, layered with soft mechanical hums and distant city breath. A controlled absence of sound. This silence felt human. He paused. Fingers still curled around the edge of his tailored coat, his body reacting before his mind supplied logic. Years of survival had trained him to notice disruptions this subtle. A chair slightly out of place. A door closing too softly. Air disturbed by breath that was not his. The faint scent of lemon cleanser reached him. Jun's jaw tightened. No one should have been here. He moved without hurry, shoes whispering against marble as he crossed the living area toward his private study. The lights were dimmed to night mode, shadows stretching long and deliberate across the walls. His hand slipped briefly inside his coat, touching cold metal, not drawing it, only acknowledging its presence. Then he saw her. She was curled on a low velvet sofa beneath the panoramic window, her body folded inward as if trying to take up less space in a room built for dominance. Her cleaning cart sat neatly beside the desk, supplies aligned with almost obsessive care. Her shoes, cheap practical, were placed together on the floor, toes pointing toward the exit. She was asleep. For a moment, Kong Jun did not breathe. Her head rested against the arm of the sofa, dark curls spilling loose from a tired knot, brushing her cheek. One arm was tucked beneath her face, the other draped protectively across her stomach. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, exhaustion pulling each breath deeper than intention. She looked young, not in years. He could tell she was well into adulthood, but in the way weariness had softened her defenses, stripping away whatever armor she wore during waking hours. The harsh lights of his world had not yet reached her here. Jun stood perfectly still. He had seen fear in countless forms. Rage, greed, desperation. He had ordered men removed from rooms like this without ever learning their names. This should have been no different. And yet, something lodged itself in his chest, tight and unfamiliar. The lamp beside the sofa was still on, bathing her skin in warm amber. Her complexion was deep and rich, catching the light beautifully. Her features relaxed in sleep, except for a faint crease between her brows, as if even rest could not fully release her from worry. She murmured softly, not a word, just a sound, fragile, unguarded. Jun's fingers curled slowly at his side. He did not remember the last time someone had slept in his presence without fear. The cleaner shifted. Her lashes fluttered. Instinct screamed. Jun straightened, every line of him sharpening, expression sliding back in a mask that ruled empires. But he was too late. Her eyes opened. For half a heartbeat, confusion clouded her gaze. Then awareness slammed into place. She jerked upright with a gasp, nearly tumbling off the sofa as panic seized her limbs. Her hands flew up reflexively, palms open, shoulders curling inward like a shield. Oh, God, I'm so sorry, she blurted, voice breathless and raw. I didn't mean to fall asleep. Please, Her eyes finally found his face. The words died in her throat. Kong Jun watched recognition bloom, terror following fast behind it. She knew who he was. Everyone did, even those who pretended not to. Her throat worked visibly as she swallowed. Please don't fire me, she whispered. The plea was quiet. It was not dramatic. It was the sound of someone who had learned that begging loudly did not help. Jun said nothing. He took her in with the same careful attention. He gave a hostile negotiation. The worn but spotless uniform, the faint tremor in her hands, the way she stood angled toward the exit, already calculating escape. You're not authorized beyond this floor, he said. His voice was calm, measured, deadly when necessary. She flinched anyway. I know, she said quickly. I mean, normally I'm not, but Mr. Han called in sick tonight, and they assigned me the upper levels. I followed the list. I swear. She gestured helplessly toward the shelf behind her, pristine and gleaming. I just sat down for a second, she continued, just to rest my legs. I didn't think. How long? June asked. Her lips parted. Hesitation flickered. Maybe 20 minutes? A lie. Or a hope. June glanced at the discreet digital clock mounted near the door. Nearly an hour had passed since the security system logged her presence on this floor. He looked back at her. She braced herself. "What is your name?" he asked. The question startled her. "My name?" she echoed. "Yes." "Ariel," she said after a beat. "Sir." The way she said it, soft but steady, settled somewhere deep in him. "Ariel," June repeated. Her shoulders tightened at the sound of it in his voice, as if hearing her name spoken by someone like him altered its weight. "Why do you need this job?" he asked. Her eyes flicked away instinctively. He almost let the question pass. Almost. But then she answered. "My brother," she said quietly. "He's 12. Asthma. We moved here last year. Insurance didn't cover everything." She inhaled, steadying herself. "I work 2 jobs. This one pays better. I can't lose it." The room felt smaller. June had expected excuses, not facts delivered without embellishment. "You understand that falling asleep here is a serious violation," he said. "Yes," she replied immediately. "I understand." She did not argue. She did not cry. That, more than anything, unsettled him. "Look at me," June said. Ariel hesitated, then lifted her chin. Her eyes were dark, alert even now, reflecting fear, but also something else. Pride, maybe, or resilience. He saw exhaustion there, bone deep and long carried. The kind that came from responsibility assumed too early and never relinquished. June exhaled slowly. "Go home," he said. For a moment, she didn't react. "Aye, sir." "Your shift is over," he clarified. "You're done for the night." Relief cracked through her composure. So suddenly she had to grab the back of the chair to steady herself. "Thank you," she breathed. "Thank you so much. I promise it won't happen again. I'll be more careful." "Aye." "One more thing." She froze. "You'll work exclusively on this floor from now on," June said. "My private quarters only." Confusion chased away her relief. "I don't understand," she said carefully. "You broke protocol," he replied. "That makes you visible." Her brows drew together. "Is that bad?" "In my world," he said, "visibility can be dangerous." She processed that in silence. "This arrangement reduces risk," he continued. "You answer to me. No substitutions. No schedule changes without my approval." Ariel hesitated, instinct warning her even as necessity pressed in. "Yes, sir," she said finally. As she gathered her shoes and cart, June turned away. Not out of courtesy, he told himself, but efficiency. Still, he listened to her movements, cataloging the soft rhythm of her presence until the door closed behind her. Only then did he allow himself to sit. The sofa still held the faint warmth of her body. June stared at the space where she had slept, unease curling through him. He had not planned this. And yet, he knew with chilling certainty, this was not the end of her intrusion into his life. Ariel did not realize how tightly she had been holding herself together until the elevator doors slid shut. The quiet hum of descent wrapped around her, metallic and steady, and suddenly her knees weakened. She leaned back against the cool mirrored wall, breath shuddering out her lungs as if she had been underwater too long. She was alive. She still had a job. Her fingers trembled as she pressed them together, grounding herself in the small sting of pressure. The image replayed in her mind with merciless clarity. The way he had stood in the doorway, tall and composed, the weight of the room bending toward him as if it commanded gravity itself. Kong Jun. She had never spoken his name aloud before tonight. Never imagined she would hear him say hers. "Ariel." The elevator chimed softly as it passed floor after floor, carrying her farther from danger, yet the sense of it lingered beneath her skin. Not fear exactly. Something more complex. Awareness. When the doors opened onto the service level, she stepped out slowly, half expecting someone to stop her, to call her back, to tell her this had all been a mistake. No one did. Outside, the night air hit her like a shock. Soul glittered and breathed around her, neon signs flickering against damp pavement. the city utterly indifferent to how close she had come to losing everything. She pulled her jacket tighter around herself and began to walk home, shoes tapping against concrete in a rhythm that matched her racing heart. By the time she reached her apartment, exhaustion threatened to pull her under again. The building was old, narrow, tucked between a shuttered cafe and a convenience store that never closed. The stairwell smelled faintly of cooking oil and detergent. Ariel climbed the steps quietly, counting them by habit. Inside, the lights were off except for the glow beneath her brother's bedroom door. "Marcus," she called softly. The door opened almost immediately. Marcus stood there in socks and an oversized hoodie, inhaler clutched loosely in his hand. His eyes lit up when he saw her. "You're home early," he said. She smiled despite herself. "Yeah." Surprise. He studied her more closely, concern sharpening his features. "You okay?" Ariel hesitated, then nodded, just tired. She kicked off her shoes and sank onto the couch, the weight of the day finally crashing down on her. Marcus padded over and sat beside her, shoulder bumping into hers. "Did something happen at work?" he asked. She thought of the penthouse, the silence, the man who ruled shadows. "Something like that," she said. Marcus frowned. "You didn't get in trouble, did you?" "No," she said quickly. "No trouble. Actually, things might get better." He raised an eyebrow. "Better how?" She exhaled. "I don't know yet." She didn't tell him about the study, or the way her heart had nearly stopped when she realized whose eyes were on her. Some things were too fragile to share before she understood them herself. That night, Ariel slept deeply, dreamlessly. For the first time in weeks, her body allowed itself to rest. Kong Jun watched the sun rise from behind bulletproof glass. The city stretched awake beneath him, relentless and beautiful, unaware of the decisions made in its dark hours. He stood by the window of his study, hands clasped behind his back, mind returning again and again to the same moment. The way Ariel had looked at him when he said her name. Not with awe, not with calculation, but with wary attention, as if she were trying to understand him, not fear him. It irritated him. It intrigued him. By mid-morning, his schedule was already suffocating him. Meetings blurred together. Reports stacked higher. Voices droned, demanding approval, judgment, violence disguised as business. Yet beneath it all, a quiet anticipation pulsed. She would be here tonight. He had no reason to feel this way. He had made the decision for control, for risk mitigation. That was all. Still, when evening came, he dismissed the staff early, ensuring the penthouse would be empty when she arrived. When the elevator doors opened, June was waiting. Ariel stepped out cautiously, uniform crisp, hair pulled back neatly. She stopped short when she saw him, surprise flickering across her face. "Good evening, sir," she said. "Good evening," he replied. She stood there, unsure whether to move. "You can begin," he said. "Yes, sir." She passed him carefully, as if navigating a wild animal, and wheeled her cart into the living area. June watched as she set to work, movements efficient but not rushed. She dusted surfaces with practiced ease, fingers gentle but thorough. "You're earlier than scheduled," he noted. "I took the earlier bus," she said without looking up. "I want to make sure I didn't rush." He nodded. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the soft swish of cloth against glass. "Do you always work 2 jobs?" he asked. She paused, then continued. "Yes. Why not find one that pays more?" She gave a small, humorless smile. "Those usually want degrees or connections." He considered that. "And this one?" he asked. "I applied 3 times," she said. "They only called back after I started nights somewhere else." Persistence. He filed that away. "You don't seem afraid today," he observed. Her hand stilled. "I am," she said honestly. "I'm just trying not to let it show." He watched her for a long moment. "That's wise," he said. As the evening wore on, something subtle shifted. The tension did not disappear, but it changed shape. Ariel moved with slightly more confidence. She asked questions when uncertain. June answered them without reprimand. At one point, she knelt to polish the base of a bookshelf, and June found himself noticing the faint limp again, the way she favored her right leg when she rose. "You're injured," he said. She stiffened. "It's nothing." "It's something," he countered. She sighed. "Old accident. I tripped carrying a load at my other job. Didn't have time to rest it properly. Does it hurt now?" "Yes," she admitted. "But I manage." He nodded once. The next day, he had a physician discreetly added to the building's approved visitors list. Ariel did not know this yet. She only knew that when she left that night, she felt lighter, as if the air around her had changed density, as if something had begun. The third night was when Ariel realized the rules had changed. Not the written ones, the unspoken ones. She noticed it first in the way the guards nodded at her when she arrived, recognition replacing indifference. One of them even held the door a second longer than necessary, eyes curious but respectful. No questions, no comments. Visibility, Kong Jun had said, could be dangerous. Yet it was also power. The elevator carried her upward in smooth silence, her reflection staring back at her from the mirrored walls. She looked the same uniform, same practical shoes, but something in her posture had shifted. She stood straighter now, shoulders less hunched, chin lifted just a fraction. When the doors opened, the penthouse greeted her with its familiar hush. June was there again, not watching this time, reading, seated near the window, one long leg crossed over the other, tablet glowing faintly in the dim. He did not look up immediately when she entered. "You're on time," he said. "Yes, sir." She moved past him, careful not to disturb the stillness. As she worked, she became acutely aware of his presence, not looming but constant. The soft rustle of pages, the occasional murmur into a secure line, the scent of expensive cologne layered with something darker beneath. She told herself not to think about it. Half an hour passed. "Ariel." She turned at the sound of her name, heart jumping despite her resolve. "Yes." "You favor your right leg more when you're tired," he said. Her breath caught. "I didn't realize." "Most people don't," he replied. "Sit." She hesitated. "Sir, I still have—" "Sit," he repeated, not unkindly. She obeyed, perching on the edge of the sofa, hands folded in her lap, like a child called to the principal's office. "You should see a doctor," he said. Her instinctive response was refusal. "I can't afford." "I didn't ask about affordability," he interrupted. "I asked about health." She studied his face, searching for mockery. Found none. "I'm fine," she said quietly. He leaned forward slightly. "You are functional. That is not the same thing." The word struck closer than she expected. "I've arranged for someone to look at it," he continued. "Tomorrow, on site." Her eyes widened. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said. Silence settled between them. "Why?" she asked before she could stop herself. His gaze held hers, dark and assessing. "Because if you fall and injure yourself here, it becomes my problem," he said. "And I dislike unnecessary variables." It was almost convincing. She nodded slowly. "Thank you." That night, as she finished her work, Ariel felt something unfamiliar tug at her awareness. She was not invisible here. By the end of the week, routines formed. Ariel arrived at the same time each evening. June worked nearby. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they didn't. Neither silence nor conversation felt heavy anymore. The physician came and went, diagnosing a strain aggravated by overuse, prescribing rest Ariel could not afford. June arranged adjusted hours without discussion. Marcus noticed a change before Ariel did. "You're smiling more," he said one morning over cereal. She paused. "Am I?" "Yeah," he grinned. "And you're not limping as much." She smiled back, warmth blooming in her chest. Yet beneath the surface, tension gathered, because power was never neutral. One night, as Ariel wiped down the counter in the kitchenette, she noticed June watching her, not openly, but with that quiet intensity that made her skin prickle. "You don't belong here," he said suddenly. Her heart stuttered. "I can leave if—" "That's not what I meant," he said. "You don't belong in this world." She swallowed. "I don't know what world that is." He stood, crossing the room in measured strides. He stopped a careful distance away, close enough that she could sense his warmth, far enough to respect the boundary neither had named. "This place," he said. "What I do." She met his gaze. "I didn't choose it." "No," he agreed. "You didn't." Something in his voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "And yet," he continued, "you are here." Ariel felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. Not desire. Not yet. Interest. She broke eye contact first. "I just clean," she said. June's lips curved faintly. "No one just does anything." The words followed her home. That night, Ariel dreamed of the penthouse, of quiet rooms and watchful eyes, of standing at a window with the city at her feet, unafraid. She woke before dawn, heart racing, the echo of his voice still in her ears. And somewhere across the city, Kong Jun woke as well, the unsettling certainty settling deeper in his bones. The cleaner he had noticed was no longer simply an employee. She was becoming a complication. Ariel learned quickly that proximity changed everything. Working on Kong Jun's private floor meant stepping into a world governed by subtleties she had never needed to master before. Silence carried meaning here. Timing mattered. Even where she stood while he spoke to others, never directly behind him, never too close to doors, became part of an unspoken choreography. He did not explain these things. He did not have to. She observed, adapted, survived. Yet what unsettled her most was not the weight of his authority, but the way he allowed her to see fragments of what lay beneath it. Not deliberately, not with intention, just enough to complicate her understanding of him. Some nights, she caught him staring out at the city for long stretches, his reflection ghosted against the glass, expression unreadable. Other nights, she heard the low edge in his voice during secure calls, the calm menace that made her stomach tighten even though she was not the target. And then there were the mornings after. She never saw the aftermath directly, but she felt in the air the tension that lingered like static, the faint metallic scent beneath the cologne, the way his shoulders held themselves just a fraction tighter. One evening, as she polished the dining table, she noticed a faint red mark on his knuckles. She tried not to stare. "You should ice that," she said before she could stop herself. He looked down at his hand, then back at her. "It's nothing." She pressed her lips together. "It looks painful." Silence stretched. "You speak more freely now," he observed. She straightened. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to overstep." He considered her for a moment. "You didn't." Her breath loosened. "Bring me ice," he said. She did. As she pressed the cold pack gently against his knuckles, their fingers brushed. It was accidental, brief. But Ariel felt it all the same, a jolt of awareness that ran straight through her, leaving warmth in its wake. She pulled back quickly, heart pounding. June noticed. Of course he did. He said nothing. By the second week, the arrangement had solidified. Ariel no longer worked her other job. June had increased her pay without comment, depositing the money directly into her account. She had discovered it by accident, staring at her phone in disbelief. When she brought it up, flustered and grateful and uncertain all at once, he waved it away. "You're compensated for exclusivity," he said. "Nothing more. But it's..." "Enough," he finished. She nodded, swallowing the rest of her words. At home, Marcus noticed a difference immediately. "You quit the diner?" he asked one evening. "Yes," she said, smiling. "I only work one job now." His eyes widened. "Did you win the lottery or something?" She laughed. "Something like that." For the first time since they'd moved, the knot in her chest loosened. Bills were paid on time. Groceries filled the fridge. Marcus slept easier, breathing steady through the night. Yet even as stability settled in, unease crept closer. Because nothing in Kong Jun's world came without a cost. The first sign of trouble arrived quietly. Ariel noticed a man watching her as she left the building one night. He leaned against a black sedan across the street, phone to his ear, eyes following her movements too closely to be coincidence. She told herself she was imagining it. The second night, he was there again. The third night, she felt footsteps behind her. She didn't look back. She kept walking, heart hammering. every instinct screaming danger. When she reached her apartment, she locked the door and leaned against it, shaking. The next evening, she told June, "I think someone is following me," she said, voice steady despite the fear coiling inside her. He looked up sharply. "Describe him," he said. She did. His expression darkened. "You should have told me sooner," he said. "I wasn't sure," she replied. "I didn't want to." Visibility, he reminded her, is dangerous. He stood, already pulling on his coat. "You'll stay here tonight." Her eyes widened. "I can't." "Marcus." "He'll be safe," June said. "I'll make sure of it." The certainty in his voice sent a shiver through her. "I don't want trouble," she said quietly. "You already have it," he replied. "But you're not alone in it." For the first time, Ariel understood what his protection truly meant. And for the first time, she wondered what would cost her in the end. Ariel slept that night on a bed that felt nothing like her own. The guest room was larger than her entire apartment. The sheets crisp and cool, the mattress soft enough that her body sank into it, as if it had been waiting for her shape. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a slice of the city, lights blinking like distant stars. It should have felt luxurious. It felt like a borrowed life. She lay awake long after the lights dimmed automatically, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet. Not the comforting quiet of home, where Marcus's breathing anchored her to present, but a vigilant silence, guarded, controlled. She wondered where Kong Jun was, whether he slept at all. A soft knock came at the door. Her heart leapt into her throat. "Yes," she called. The door opened just enough for him to step inside. He wore no jacket now, only a dark shirt with sleeves rolled back to his forearms. He looked less armored, still composed, still powerful, but stripped of the outer layer that announced him to the world. "I spoke with my people," he said. "The man you described works for a rival group. He's been gathering information." "About you?" she asked. "About leverage," he replied. Her stomach tightened. "I'm leverage?" "Yes," he said. He did not soften the truth. "But that does not mean you are expendable." She searched his face, looking for reassurance she did not fully expect to find. "You'll stay here until this is resolved," he continued. "Your brother will be watched. Discreetly. I don't want him dragged into." "He won't be," June said firmly. "I give you my word." The sincerity in his voice steadied her. "Thank you," she said. He nodded once, then hesitated at the door. "You should lock it," he added. "Habit." After he left, Ariel did as he suggested, fingers lingering on the cool metal of the lock. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened window, small, uncertain, caught between worlds. She exhaled slowly. This was happening. The days that followed blurred together. Ariel remained in the penthouse, moving through its rooms with growing familiarity. She cleaned less now, more as an excuse and necessity, her presence tolerated and then subtly expected. June worked nearby, always aware of her, always keeping a careful distance. Their conversations were brief but frequent, touching on neutral ground, books, weather, the city's endless noise. Once, she asked him why he never played music. "I prefer to hear what approaches," he said. She laughed softly before she could stop herself. He raised an eyebrow. "Amusing?" "Just sad," she admitted. He studied her for a long moment. "I'm not a sad man." "No," she agreed. "But you're a lonely one." The words hung between them, dangerous and honest. "You shouldn't assume," he said. "I don't," she replied. "I observe." Something in his gaze shifted. The threat escalated faster than Ariel expected. One afternoon, as she stood by the window, she noticed a car idling across the street. Familiar. The same black sedan she'd seen nights before. Her breath caught. June followed her line of sight immediately. "Inside," he said, already reaching for his phone. She obeyed without question, heart pounding. Within minutes, the car was gone. That night, June did not leave her alone. They ate dinner together for the first time, seated across from each other at the long dining table. The food was exquisite, prepared by a chef who entered and left without comment. Ariel barely tasted it. "Are you afraid?" June asked. "Yes," she said honestly. Good, he replied. Fear keeps you alive? She met his gaze. What keeps you alive? He considered the question. Control, he said. And people who do what they're told. She smiled faintly. That sounds exhausting. It is, he agreed. After dinner, they stood by the window together, the city stretching endlessly below. You could send me away, she said quietly. Hide me somewhere. That would be safer. No, he said. Why? Because they'd find you, he replied. And because running would teach them you matter. Her heart thudded. I do matter. To her own surprise, he smiled. Yes, he said. You do. The word settled into her, warm and terrifying all at once. That night, Ariel dreamed again. This time, she stood beside Kong Jun in the study, his hand resting lightly on her back, not possessive, not claiming, just there. She woke with a sensation lingering, her pulse racing. Across the hall, Kong Jun stared at the ceiling, the echo of her presence disrupting his carefully ordered thoughts. He had invited danger into his home, and for the first time in years, he did not regret it. The morning arrived without ceremony. Ariel woke to soft light spilling across unfamiliar walls, the city humming far below like a distant ocean. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory rushed back. The black sedan, Kong Jun's quiet certainty, the locked door. She sat up slowly, pressing her feet into the plush carpet, grounding herself in the present. Somewhere beyond the guest room walls, life continued according to rules she did not yet fully understand. She dressed carefully, smoothing her uniform as if the ritual itself could anchor her. When she stepped into the kitchen, Jun was already there. He stood at the counter, sleeves rolled up again, dark hair slightly tousled in a way she had never seen before. He was pouring coffee, real coffee, not the pre-measured capsules she used at home. Good morning, he said without turning. Good morning, she replied, surprised. He slid a mug across the counter toward her. You take it with sugar. She stared at the cup. How do you know that? You add it before you think, he said. Every time. A small laugh escaped her. I didn't realize I was that predictable. You're not, he replied. That's why it stands out. She wrapped her hands around the mug, warmth seeping into her fingers. The simple gesture felt intimate in a way that unsettled her. They drank in silence, not an awkward silence, a shared one. Marcus is fine, Jun said eventually. He walked to school this morning. Two men followed at a distance. He didn't notice. Relief flooded her chest. Thank you. You don't have to thank me, he said. I told you I would handle it. She studied him over the rim of her mug. You keep your promises. Yes, he said, or I don't make them. As the days passed, Ariel learned what it meant to exist under Kong Jun's protection. Her phone no longer lost signal in certain parts of the city. Cars slowed when she crossed streets. Faces she didn't recognize began to feel familiar, always present at the edges of her awareness. She was being watched, but not threatened. One afternoon, while cleaning the study, she noticed a photograph she hadn't seen before tucked into a corner of the bookshelf. It was old, edges slightly worn. It showed a younger Kong Jun standing beside a woman with kind eyes and a tired smile. Is that your mother? She asked softly. He paused behind her. Yes, he said. She looks gentle. She was, he replied. Too gentle for my father. Ariel hesitated, then asked, What happened to her? She died, Jun said, a long time ago. I'm sorry. He inclined his head, accepting the sentiment without comment. You don't talk about your family much, she observed. There's nothing to say. There always is, she said quietly. He looked at her then, really looked at her, as if weighing the risk of letting her see more. You make things complicated, he said. She smiled faintly. I get that a lot. The tension between them shifted again the night the power went out. It happened without warning. Lights flickering, then darkness swallowing the penthouse whole. The city outside continued to glow, mocking their sudden isolation. Ariel gasped softly. Stay where you are, Jun said immediately, already moving. I'm okay, she replied, though her heart raced. Emergency lights blinked on moments later, casting the room in low red illumination. June appeared beside her, closer than he had ever been, his presence solid and reassuring. "It's probably nothing," he said. "Backup systems will—" A crash echoed from somewhere down the hall. Ariel jumped. June's hand came up instinctively, resting against her shoulder, not gripping, not restraining, simply there. The contact sent a shiver through her, unexpected and electric. "Inside," he murmured. She obeyed, allowing him to guide her into the study. He locked the door behind them, movements efficient. They stood in the dim light, breaths audible. "Is this normal?" she asked. "No," he said. Her heart thudded. "Then what?" "Testing," he replied. "They want to see how I respond." She swallowed. "Because of me." "Because of us," he corrected. The words settled heavily between them. Minutes passed. Then the lights returned, bright and sudden. June stepped back immediately, distance restored. But the memory of his hand lingered on her skin. That night, Ariel lay awake again, thoughts racing. She was no longer just surviving. She was choosing to stay, to trust, to let herself be drawn closer to a man whose world could destroy her as easily as it sheltered her. And somewhere down the hall, Kong Jun stared out at the city, jaw clenched. He had crossed an invisible line. He was no longer protecting an employee. He was protecting someone he did not want to lose. Ariel stopped pretending the penthouse was temporary. It happened quietly, without decision. One morning she realized she no longer packed her bag each night, as if preparing to flee. Her toothbrush sat beside a second one in the marble holder. A spare sweater hung in the closet. Small signs of permanence, unnoticed until they were already there. She told herself it was practical. The threat hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown more deliberate. But beneath the logic, something else had taken root. Something warmer and more dangerous. She belonged here now. Not to the space, but to the strange gravity that existed between her and Kong Jun. Their days developed a rhythm that felt almost domestic. They shared coffee in the mornings when he slept at the penthouse. She worked nearby while he conducted business, the murmur of his voice weaving through the rooms like a low, steady pulse. At night, they ate together more often than not, conversation drifting into unexpected places. "You read a lot," she observed one evening, nodding toward a stack of books on the side table. "I used to," he replied, "before reading became a liability." "How can reading be dangerous?" "You learn other ways to live," he said. "That can be distracting." She smiled. "Or liberating." He watched her for a long moment. "Yes, that too." The word lingered. The first real fracture came with Marcus. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Ariel's phone rang, the screen flashing with her brother's school number. Panic surged through her instantly. "Yes?" she answered, already standing. "There's been an incident," the administrator said carefully. "Your brother had trouble breathing during recess. He's stable now, but—" "I'm coming," Ariel said, already moving. She barely registered Kong Jun's presence until he was beside her, coat in hand. "I'll take you," he said. "I can—" "No," he cut in. "You won't." They moved fast, security falling into place without a word. The car cut through traffic with ruthless efficiency, the city blurring past in streaks of light. Ariel's hands twisted together in her lap. "This is my fault," she whispered. "All this stress. I should have been there. You were protected." June said. "So was he." "That doesn't make it better." He said nothing. At the hospital, the world narrowed to white corridors and antiseptic air. Marcus lay in a bed, oxygen mask in place, eyes tired but alert. "Ari," he croaked when he saw her. She rushed to his side, gripping his hand. "I'm here. I'm sorry." He squeezed back weakly. "You didn't do anything." She swallowed hard. June stood back, observing quietly. Presence felt even without proximity. He spoke to doctors, made calls, smoothed the path forward in ways Ariel barely noticed until later. When Marcus was settled and sleeping, Ariel stepped into the hallway, shoulders sagging. June followed. You don't owe me this, she said, voice breaking. Any of it. He studied her, expression unreadable. You don't understand, he said. Then explain, she challenged softly. He hesitated. Just a fraction. When someone is under my protection, he said slowly, they are mine to keep safe. Failing that is unacceptable. She met his gaze. That sounds like ownership. It's responsibility, he replied. The distinction matters. She exhaled. To you? Yes, he said. That night, Ariel stayed at the hospital. June did not leave. They sat together in the dim waiting room, exhaustion pressing down on them both. Ariel rested her head against the back of the chair, eyes heavy. You should sleep, he said. So should you. I don't, he replied. She turned to him. You never sleep? Rarely. Why? Because when I do, he said quietly, I dream. She didn't ask what about. Instead, she did something impulsive. She reached for his hand. The contact was tentative, almost questioning. His fingers still beneath hers, then slowly turned, enveloping her hand in his. It felt grounding. Human. They sat like that, hands entwined, until morning light crept through the windows. Neither of them pulled away. By the time Marcus was discharged, rumors had already begun to circulate. Ariel noticed the looks first, curious, speculative, tinged with fear. Staff who had once ignored her now watched closely. Whispers followed her through halls. She belonged to Kong Jun, and in his world, that meant something. You should move Marcus, June said one evening after they returned to the penthouse. Somewhere safer. Her chest tightened. This is his home. It's a target, he replied. For now, she countered. But he needs normalcy. June studied her, then nodded. For now. It was a concession, a rare one. That night, Ariel stood on the balcony alone, the city stretching endlessly below. She felt the weight of the choice she was making, the line she had crossed without fully seeing it. June joined her, standing close but not touching. You're angry, he observed. I'm scared, she said. He considered that. That's worse. She glanced at him. You're afraid, too. He didn't deny it. Behind the scenes, the enemy closed in. Information leaked. Security was tested. Boundaries were pushed. And Ariel, standing at the center of it all, felt something undeniable shift inside her. This was no longer about survival. It was about connection. And connection, she was beginning to understand, was the most dangerous leverage of all. The city learned their rhythm. It learned when Kong Jun left the penthouse and when he returned. It learned which routes his cars favored, how his security adjusted when rain slicked the streets, how the lights in his study burned later on nights when negotiations went poorly. And it learned about Ariel. Not her name, not yet, but her presence. The first warning came disguised as courtesy. A man approached her in the lobby one afternoon. Well-dressed, polite, a smile calibrated to disarm. You work upstairs, he said conversationally. Ariel's spine went rigid. I'm late, she replied, stepping around him. He chuckled softly, not offended. Of course. Just tell Mr. Kong that friends are thinking of him. Friends. She did not look back until she was safely inside the elevator, breath coming too fast. That evening, she told June everything. He listened without interruption, face unreadable. They're probing, he said when she finished. Testing boundaries. What do they want from me? She asked. They want reaction, he replied. And leverage. She folded her arms around herself. I didn't sign up for this. No, he agreed. You didn't. Then why am I still here? She asked, voice trembling despite her effort to steady it. He met her gaze. Because leaving now would not make you safer. The truth of it sat heavy in her chest. The days grew tighter, the spaces between moments shrinking. Ariel found herself hyper-aware of June, of the way his attention tracked movement, of how his tone softened when he spoke to her, without noticing, of the tension that gathered in his shoulders whenever she left the penthouse. She was becoming something he guarded, and he was becoming something she leaned toward. The night, it finally broke open. It began with rain. Thunder rolled across the sky, rain lashing against the windows hard enough to blur the city into streaks of silver. Power flickered, but held. The penthouse felt suspended, isolated from the world below. Ariel stood at the counter, hands braced against the marble, trying to calm the unease curling through her stomach. "You're pacing," June observed from behind her. She exhaled sharply. "I can't shake the feeling that something's coming." "Yes," he said quietly. "So can I." The words barely left his mouth before the alarm sounded. Not loud, not panicked, controlled. June moved instantly, already issuing commands into his phone, security snapping into motion with ruthless precision. "Inside," he said to Ariel, guiding her toward the study. A sharp crack echoed from somewhere below. Ariel froze. "June," she whispered. He turned to her, eyes dark. "Stay with me?" They moved together, the space narrowing around them as footsteps thundered beyond reinforced doors. Voices rose, angry, urgent, foreign. June positioned himself between her and the door without thinking. "You shouldn't be here," she said, voice shaking. "I'm putting you at risk." He glanced back at her, incredulous. "You think this is about you alone?" The door shuddered once. Twice. Ariel's breath came in shallow gasps. She reached for him blindly, fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt. "I'm scared," she admitted. His hand covered hers, anchoring. "I know." The door held. Seconds stretched into minutes, each one taut with tension. Then silence. June listened, every sense sharp. A voice crackled through his earpiece. Perimeter secure. He exhaled slowly, muscles loosening by degrees. Only then did he realize how close she was. Pressed against him, heart racing beneath his palm. They did not move. The moment stretched, fragile and charged. "You stayed," she said softly. "Yes," he replied. "You could have sent me away," she continued. "Hidden me, protected yourself." "I didn't want to," he said. The truth settled between them, undeniable. Ariel lifted her gaze to his, rainlit city reflecting in the glass behind him. "Why?" He hesitated. For the first time since she'd known him, truly hesitated. "Because," he said slowly, "you see me when no one else does." Her breath caught. "And what do you see?" she asked. He searched her face, the answer already there. A man who is tired of being alone. The admission stripped something bare between them. Ariel's hand slid from his shirt to his chest, resting there, not claiming, not demanding, just present. "I don't belong in your world," she said. "No," he agreed, "but you belong with me." The words were not a declaration of ownership. They were a confession. She rose onto her toes without thinking, forehead resting lightly against his. The contact was intimate, restrained, electric. For a heartbeat, neither breathed. Then she pulled back slightly, eyes shining. "This doesn't make me weak." "No," he said immediately. "It makes you brave." Their foreheads touched again, the moment suspended just shy of something irreversible. When they finally separated, the world felt altered. Neither of them said it aloud. But they both knew. There was no going back. After the alarms fell silent, the penthouse did not return to normal. It couldn't. Something fundamental had shifted, not just in the reinforced walls or the security protocols humming beneath the floors, but in the space between Ariel and Kong June. The air itself felt different, charged, alert, intimate in a way that made every small movement matter. June spoke first, voice steady again, the mask sliding back into place with practiced ease. "You'll stay close tonight," he said. "No wandering, no balconies." She nodded, though her thoughts were still tangled in the echo of his words. "You belong with me." They did not say it again. They didn't need to. The following days passed in a strange half-light. Security tightened visibly. New faces appeared in the halls, their presence discreet but unmistakable. Ariel learned which routes were closed, which doors required additional clearance, which silences meant danger and which meant preparation. She adapted. It surprised her how quickly she did. There was fear, yes, but there was also resolve. She was no longer a passive piece on someone else's board. She paid attention. She remembered names. She asked questions when something felt wrong. June noticed. "You're learning," he said one evening as they reviewed a new schedule together. "I have to," she replied. "I can't afford not to." He studied her, something like pride flickering briefly in his eyes. Most people would retreat. "I'm not most people," she said simply. "No," he agreed. "You're not." The turning point came unexpectedly. It was late afternoon when Ariel heard Marcus's voice over the secure line June had arranged for emergencies. "Ari," he said, breathless, "there's someone here asking questions about you." Her blood ran cold. "Where are you?" "At the store. He said he knows you from work." "Leave," she said immediately. "Go home. Now." She didn't wait for confirmation. She was already moving, heart pounding, fear slicing through her composure. June intercepted her in the hallway. "What happened?" he asked. "Marcus," she said. "They found him." June's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone, issuing rapid commands. "We'll intercept," he said. "He won't be touched." Ariel grabbed his arm. "I can't lose him," she whispered. "You won't," he said fiercely. They arrived at the store in minutes. Security spread out, controlled and efficient. The man Ariel had described was already gone. Marcus was shaken but unharmed. When Ariel wrapped him in her arms, relief crashed through her so hard her knees nearly gave way. "I'm sorry," Marcus murmured. "I didn't tell him anything." "You did nothing wrong," she said, holding him tight. June watched from a distance, something hard and dangerous settling in his expression. That night, he made a decision. "They won't stop," June said later, standing in the study as Ariel listened. "Not now." "What are you saying?" she asked, dread coiling in her chest. "I'm ending it," he said. "The uncertainty. The testing." She stared at him. "How?" He met her gaze. Decisively. The implication chilled her. "You're going to start a war," she said. "I'm going to finish one," he corrected. Ariel took a step closer. "And what happens to us?" He hesitated. "For now," he said, "you'll leave?" Her heart clenched. "You said—" "I know what I said," he interrupted softly. "And I meant it. But this is not something I can shield you from." She searched his face, seeing the conflict there, the restraint, the care he refused to name. "I won't run," she said quietly. "This isn't about courage," he replied. "It's about survival." She swallowed. "Then teach me how to survive." The room went still. June looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time all over again. "Very well," he said. "But understand this. Once you step fully into my world, there is no pretending you don't belong." She met his gaze, unflinching. "I stopped pretending a long time ago." Something like a smile touched his lips. That night, as Ariel lay awake, she understood the truth she could no longer avoid. Love had not arrived gently. It had arrived like a line crossed in fire. And from this point forward, everything would be different. Preparation changed Kong June. Ariel noticed it in the way his movements sharpened, every gesture stripped of excess. Conversations shortened. Orders were given once and obeyed immediately. The penthouse became less a home and more a command center, its quiet elegance overlaid with tension so dense it seemed to vibrate. And yet, within that tightening circle, he was gentler with her. He checked where she stood before moving through rooms. He waited for her to finish speaking. He asked, not ordered, when it came to decisions that affected her. It unsettled her more than cruelty ever could have. "You don't have to soften things for me," she said one night as they stood in the study, maps and encrypted screens glowing faintly around them. "I'm not," he replied. "I'm being precise." She tilted her head. "That's a new definition." He almost smiled. Training began quietly. Not weapons. Not tactics. Awareness. He taught her how to read rooms, how to notice exits without staring, how to sense when attention shifted toward her for the wrong reasons. They practiced scenarios in conversation, his questions probing, hers growing sharper with each exchange. "What do you do if someone approaches you casually?" he asked. "I don't engage," she replied. "I redirect or leave." "And if you can't leave?" I control the pace. Ask questions instead of answering them. He nodded. Good. She surprised herself by enjoying it, not the danger, but the agency, the feeling that she was no longer helpless, no longer merely reacting. You're a quick study, he said. I've had a lot of practice adapting, she replied. Just not like this. The first physical closeness came not from desire, but necessity. They were reviewing footage late one night, when Ariel leaned close to see the screen, her shoulder brushing his. The contact was brief, unremarkable, except neither of them moved away. She could feel the warmth of him, steady and solid. He inhaled slowly, as if grounding himself. Neither spoke. Later, when she realized how long they had stood like that, she felt heat bloom beneath her skin, followed by something more dangerous. Want. She pushed it down. This was not the time. The threat escalated the following week. A message arrived through back channels, explicit, deliberate. She's not invisible anymore. June read it once, then handed the device to Ariel. She stared at the words, pulse roaring in her ears. They're talking about me. Yes, he said. They're escalating. Fear flickered through her, but it didn't root her in place this time. What's the plan? She asked. June studied her, weighing something. I move against them. You stay protected. And Marcus, relocated, he said, already in progress. Relief and guilt collided in her chest. I should tell him. You will, he said, when it's safe. She nodded, trusting him even as the weight of that trust pressed down on her. The night everything nearly broke, it was quiet again. Too quiet. Ariel felt it before she heard anything. A tightening in her chest, a sense of wrongness that prickled her skin. June, she whispered. He was already moving, ushering her toward the secure room hidden behind the study wall. Stay here, he said. She grabbed his wrist. Don't shut me out. He met her gaze, conflict flaring. This isn't. I know, she said, but I won't be helpless. A beat. Then he nodded. Stay behind me. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Ariel heard Ray's voices, saw flashes of movement through the reinforced glass. She watched June transform, his calm hardening into something lethal, decisive. When it was over, silence fell again. June turned back to her, scanning her quickly for injuries. I'm fine, she said. Only then did he let out the breath he'd been holding. She stepped closer without thinking, hands resting against his chest. You came back. I told you, he said quietly. I keep what's under my protection safe. She looked up at him, heart pounding. And if I'm more than that? His gaze darkened, something raw breaking to control. Then I'll protect you anyway, he said. The words were not romantic. They were a vow. She leaned into him then, forehead against his shoulder, and for a moment he allowed it, arms coming around her. Not possessive, not claiming, just holding. It was enough. For now. The embrace lasted only a moment. Then Kong June stepped back, control snapping into place with practiced precision. The room seemed to exhale with him, tension settling into a low, constant hum that neither of them could ignore. You should rest, he said. Ariel nodded, though sleep felt like a distant concept. You too. I will, he replied, and for once it did not sound like a dismissal. She left him in the study, the glow of screens reflecting off his sharp profile, and retreated to the guest room. The door closed softly behind her, sealing her into a quiet that felt suddenly too large. She lay on the bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling. Her body still remembered the feel of his arms, solid, careful, restrained. It had not been an accident. It had not been nothing, and that frightened her more than the threat outside. Morning came heavy with rain. Ariel woke to the sound of voices in the penthouse, low, urgent, clipped. She dressed quickly and stepped into the hallway, pausing when she saw June speaking with one of his men. Their conversation halted when they noticed her. Is something wrong? She asked. June dismissed the man with a glance. We have a window, he said. A short one. For what? To end this, he replied. Her chest tightened. And after, he looked at her, really looked at her, as if measuring the weight of his answer. After, he said, we see what remains. She followed him into the study, where the city sprawled beneath storm clouds like a living thing. He gestured for her to sit, then leaned against the desk across from her, hands braced on the surface. There's something you need to understand, he said. What I'm about to do will change how people see you. They already do, she replied. Yes, he agreed, but this will make it permanent. Ariel swallowed. You mean they'll know I matter? They'll assume you do, he corrected. Assumption is enough. She considered that. You could deny it. He shook his head. I won't. Her breath caught. Why? She asked again, the question that had haunted her from the beginning. June was silent for a long moment. Because, he said finally, if I deny it, I deny myself. The honesty of it struck her like a physical blow. She rose slowly, crossing the room until they stood only inches apart. You don't have to prove anything with violence. I know, he said, but I will not let them keep circling you. Her voice softened. I don't need to be a symbol. No, he said, you're not. Then what am I? His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, then lifted again, restraint evident in every line of him. You are someone I chose. The words were quiet. They were everything. The hours that followed unfolded with ruthless efficiency. Ariel was moved, not hidden but secured, in a smaller, reinforced suite deeper within the building. Screens showed controlled chaos as June's network moved into place, alliances tightening, enemies pressured from every angle. She watched, heart pounding, understanding now what power truly looked like. It was not shouting. It was inevitability. When the final confirmation came, short, definitive, June closed his eyes briefly, then turned toward her. It's done, he said. She searched his face for signs of triumph. Found none. Are we safe? She asked. For now, he replied. She nodded, absorbing the weight of that phrase. They stood there in silence, the storm outside breaking into sudden sunlight. Ariel spoke first. You said there'd be no pretending, she said. Yes. So stop pretending, she continued, voice steady despite the fear threading through it. What happens to us now? June stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, the quiet intensity that had drawn her in from the start. What do you want? He asked. No orders. No assumptions. A choice. She took a breath. I want to stay. Not because I'm protected. Because I choose you. The confession trembled in the air between them. June's hand rose slowly, stopping just short of touching her cheek, as if asking permission without words. She leaned into it. His fingers brushed her skin, gentle, reverent. The contact sent a shiver through her, awareness flaring bright and undeniable. This makes you a target, he said quietly. It already did, she replied. This just makes it honest. He studied her face, then nodded once, decision settling. Then stay, he said, as my equal, not my shield. Relief and fear tangled together in her chest. She smiled. I can live with that. He allowed himself a small, genuine smile in return. Outside, the city continued on, unaware that a war had ended, and something far more dangerous had begun. The consequences arrived quietly. No sirens, no headlines, no visible aftermath that the city could point to and say, this is where things changed. Power rarely announced itself when it shifted. It simply rearranged the world and waited for others to adjust. Ariel felt it in subtler ways, in the way people stepped aside for her, in corridors they once ignored her in the way conversations paused when she entered rooms meant only for decision-makers, in the way her name, now known, was spoken carefully, as if it carried weight that might bruise if mishandled. She was no longer invisible, and that visibility pressed on her in ways she hadn't fully anticipated. The first time it nearly broke her was a week later. She had insisted on visiting Marcus in person, despite security concerns. June had argued, quietly, fiercely, but eventually conceded, reinforcing protection instead of forbidding her. Normalcy mattered. She clung to that truth. Marcus met her at the door with a grin that faltered when he saw her expression. You okay? He asked. I'm fine, she said automatically. He didn't believe her. They sat together on the couch, the television murmuring in the background. For a while, they talked about school, about a science project he was excited about small, safe things. Then he asked the question she had been dreading. "Who is he?" Marcus said. Her heart stumbled. "Who?" "The guy," he said. "The one people keep talking about. The one who sends drivers and guards and makes teachers nervous." Ariel closed her eyes briefly. "Kong Jun," she said. Marcus studied her. "Are you in trouble?" She met his gaze. "No, that's not what I asked." She exhaled slowly. "I'm involved." "With him?" "Yes." "Is he dangerous?" The question was simple, honest. "Yes," she said. Marcus absorbed that, then asked, "Is he dangerous to you?" She didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. "No, he protects me." Marcus frowned. That sounds like something people say right before they get hurt. The words cut deeper than any threat ever could. Ariel reached for his hand. "I won't let anything happen to you," she said. "Or to me." He squeezed her fingers. "Just don't disappear." She swallowed. "I won't." But the fear lingered long after she left. That night, Ariel stood alone on the balcony, city lights stretching endlessly below. The wind tugged at her hair, cool and grounding. June joined her without a word, standing beside her, presence familiar now in a way that still startled her sometimes. "You're troubled," he said. "Marcus is afraid," she replied. He nodded once. "That's reasonable." She turned to him. "You're asking me to live with fear as a constant." "No," he corrected. "I'm asking you to live with awareness." She studied his face. "Is there a difference?" "Yes," he said. "Fear paralyzes. Awareness prepares." She considered that. "And what about love?" The word hung between them, fragile and exposed. "Love," June said slowly, "is leverage." Her chest tightened. "You make it sound like a liability." "It is," he replied. "In my world." "And yet," she said softly, "you chose it anyway." His gaze softened, just enough. "Yes," he said, "I did." She stepped closer, resting her hands lightly against his chest. "Then don't ask me to be unafraid." "I wouldn't," he said. "I'd ask you to be honest." She looked up at him. "I'm afraid." He nodded. "So am I." The admission was quiet, unvarnished. They stood there, the city witnessing nothing, the moment belonging only to them. The test came 2 nights later. Not an attack, not a threat, an invitation. A formal event hosted by one of June's long-standing allies. Public, visible, impossible to refuse without signaling weakness. "You'll attend," June said. "With me?" Ariel's pulse quickened. "As what?" He met her gaze. "As yourself." The night of the event, Ariel stood before the mirror, barely recognizing the woman reflected back at her. The dress was elegant but understated, chosen carefully. No excess, no vulnerability. Her hair was styled simply, her movements practiced but not rehearsed. When June entered the room, dressed in tailored black, the air shifted. He offered her his arm. She took it. The room they entered buzzed with conversation, laughter edged with calculation. Eyes turned, assessed, judged. Ariel felt every one of them. June's hand rested lightly over hers, a silent reminder. She held her head high. Conversation stopped when they approached. Smiles sharpened. Questions hovered just beneath the surface. "This is Ariel," June said simply when introductions were required. No title, no explanation. It was enough. She felt the weight of his choice then. Not to frame her as protection, not to present her as weakness, but to stand beside her without armor. The night passed without incident, but the message had been sent. Later, alone again, Ariel finally exhaled. "You didn't shield me," she said. "No," he agreed. "I trusted you." She smiled softly. "That's more frightening than protection." "And more powerful," he replied. She stepped into him then, arms wrapping around his waist, head resting against his chest. He hesitated only a second before his arms came around her, holding her firmly, not hiding, not claiming, standing with. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, Ariel understood something at last. The cost of choosing love was not danger. It was responsibility, and she was ready to carry it. Betrayal never announced itself. It slipped in quietly, wearing familiar faces and borrowed trust, and by the time it revealed its teeth, the damage was already done. Ariel sensed it before anyone said a word. It was in the way conversations cut off when she entered rooms that had grown used to her presence. In the way June's advisors, men who had once regarded her with wary acceptance, now watched her with something colder, sharper. Calculation. "You're being discussed," she said to June one evening as they reviewed reports in the study. He did not look up. "You always are." "This is different," she replied. "They're questioning me." He glanced at her then, expression tightening. "No one questions you without my permission." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" The question landed harder than she intended. June set the tablet aside slowly. "Who said something to you?" "No one," she said. "Not directly." "That's how it starts," he said. The air between them thickened. The fracture widened 3 days later. Ariel was summoned. Not invited. Summoned. To a meeting she had never been included in before. June was delayed by an external negotiation, and despite his instructions that she wait, the message was clear. Come alone. She should have refused. But refusing would have been its own signal. The room was smaller than the main conference space, windowless and cool. 5 men sat around the table, all of them familiar, all of them powerful in their own right. "Ariel," one of them said pleasantly, "thank you for coming." She took the seat offered, spine straight, hands folded. "You wanted to speak with me." "We wanted to understand you," another said. "Your role." "I don't have a role," she replied calmly. "I'm not part of your operations." A murmur rippled around the table. "That's the problem," the first man said gently. "You are part of everything now." She met his gaze. "That wasn't my decision." "No," he agreed. "It was June's. And he's become compromised." The word chilled her. "You're wrong," she said. "Is he?" the man countered. "He's made choices recently that favor emotion over strategy." Ariel felt anger flare, but she kept her voice even. "If this meeting is about persuading me to leave him, you're wasting your time." "A beat." "No," the man said softly. "It's about persuading you to leave for him." The implication settled heavy and cold. "For his safety," another added. "And yours." Ariel rose slowly. "This conversation is over." They did not stop her. They did not need to. The seed had been planted. June was furious when he found out. "Who authorized that meeting?" he demanded, voice low and lethal. "They said it was about logistics," Ariel replied. "I didn't know." "You should have waited," he snapped. She stiffened. "I didn't know I was walking into an interrogation." Silence fell. The anger in his eyes faltered, replaced by something else. Concern. "I'm sorry," he said after a moment. "I shouldn't have raised my voice." She exhaled shakily. "They think I'm your weakness." "They think wrong," he said immediately. "Do they?" she asked quietly. The question cut deep. June's jaw tightened. "This ends now." "How?" she asked. "I remove them," he said. Ariel's heart raced. "That will tear everything apart." "Yes," he agreed, "but it will keep you safe." She shook her head. "You can't burn your world down for me." "I already did," he said softly. "The moment I chose you." The words were meant to reassure. They terrified her. That night, Ariel couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the echoes of the meeting replaying in her mind. Compromised. Emotion over strategy. What if they were right? What if loving her made June weaker? She rose quietly, dressing without turning on the lights. When she reached the study, June was already there, standing at the window. "You're leaving," he said without turning. She froze. "You're thinking of it," he continued. "I can feel it." She stepped closer. "I don't want to go." "But you will," he said. She looked at him in surprise. "Because you think it will protect me," he said. "And you might be right." Her throat tightened. "I don't want to hurt you." "You won't," he replied. "You'll hurt yourself." She reached for him, stopping just short of touching. "Say, you don't want me to go." He closed his eyes briefly. "I don't want you to go," he said. "Then ask me to stay." He looked at her, eyes dark with restraint. "I can't," he said. The admission broke something open between them. Ariel nodded slowly. "Then I'll leave." The words tasted like ash. "For now," she added, "until this settles." He did not stop her. That hurt more than anything else. By morning, the penthouse felt hollow. Ariel packed quietly, leaving behind the sweater, the toothbrush, the small markers of the life she had almost believed in. She wrote Marcus a careful note, one that promised safety without explanation. At the door, she paused. June stood a few feet away, hands at his sides, tension carved into every line of him. "This isn't goodbye," she said. "No," he agreed. "It's me choosing myself," she continued. "The way you taught me to." His voice was rough. "I know." She stepped forward then, closing the distance at last. She pressed her forehead briefly to his chest, a silent farewell. "Don't lose yourself," she whispered. "You too," he replied. Then she was gone, and Kong June stood alone in a penthouse that felt suddenly too large, too quiet. The war was not over, but now it had taken something from him he had not expected to risk. Leaving did not make Ariel feel free. It made her feel exposed. The city swallowed her quickly, its noise and movement a stark contrast to the controlled quiet she had grown used to. She stayed nowhere long enough to be predictable. First a friend's spare room, then a modest hotel near the river. Finally a small furnished apartment arranged under a different name. Normal. Anonymous. Safe. That was the idea. But safety, she discovered, fell hollow without truth. She kept in contact with Marcus through short, careful messages. He was unsettled but unharmed, watched discreetly by people who never announced themselves. She hated that she could recognize the signs now, the subtle patterns, the invisible perimeter. June's world clung to her even in absence. At night, she replayed their last conversation, the way his voice had roughened when he said he didn't want her to go, the way he had let her leave anyway. That was love, she realized, not possession. Choice. Kong June dismantled the problem with surgical precision. He did not explode. He did not rage. He isolated. The men who had summoned Ariel were removed from influence one by one. Not violently, not publicly, but completely. Contract dissolved. Alliances reassigned. Power rebalanced. So subtly most never noticed a shift until it was too late to object. They had been right about one thing. He had been compromised, but not weakened. Clarified. Yet even as control returned, something essential was missing. The penthouse was silent again, but not the engineered silence he preferred. This one echoed. "You should bring her back," one of his most trusted lieutenants said carefully. June did not look up. "She'll return if she chooses to." "That's a risk," the man said. "Yes," June replied, "and it's hers to take." Ariel made her choice 3 weeks later. It came not from fear, but from anger. She learned, through channels she hadn't realized she had access to, that a secondary faction, sidelined but not defeated, had begun maneuvering again. Quietly, patiently. They were not coming for June. They were coming for her. Not to hurt her. To use her absence as proof. See? She ran. She broke him. The narrative infuriated her. She was not something that broke and disappeared. She was someone who chose. Ariel made calls she had never expected to make. Spoke to people who remember her not as Kong June's shadow, but as the woman who listened, who observed, who noticed what others dismissed. Information flowed. Patterns emerged. And for the first time, Ariel saw how power could be wielded without force. When she walked back into Kong June's life, she did not do it quietly. She requested a meeting. Formal, public, unavoidable. June read the message once, then twice, disbelief flickering across a controlled expression. "She's here," his lieutenant said. "I know," June replied. The room buzzed with tension as Ariel entered, composed and unafraid. She wore no armor, no borrowed authority, only certainty. You shouldn't be here, June said, standing. I know, she replied. That's why I came. She placed a folder on the table. They're regrouping, she said. Not openly. They're using proxies. Shell companies. Soft pressure. Silence fell. How do you know this? Someone demanded. Ariel met his gaze coolly. Because you underestimated me. June watched her, heart pounding. This ends now, she continued, but not the way you planned. She turned to June. You don't need to burn everything down. You need to let them see that I didn't run. Understanding dawned slowly. You want to be visible, he said. Yes, she replied. On my terms. The room held its breath. June studied her face, the resolve there, the strength she had built herself. Then he nodded. Very well, he said. We do it your way. Relief flickered across her face. But she didn't smile. Not yet. That night, alone at last, they stood together again in the study. You could have stayed away, June said quietly. I could have, she agreed. But then I'd always wonder if I left because I was afraid. And are you? He asked. Yes, she said. But I'm here anyway. He stepped closer, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. You've changed, he murmured. So have you, she replied. This time, when he reached for her, he did not stop short. He cupped her face gently, reverently, as if grounding himself in her reality. She leaned into his touch, eyes closing, not because she was weak, because she was choosing. The city did not know it was holding its breath. Traffic moved. Screens flickered. Towers of glass reflected clouds drifting indifferently overhead. But beneath the ordinary rhythms, something decisive was unfolding, an ending shaped not by force alone, but by resolve. Ariel stood beside Kong June in the study. The city spread beneath them like a map of consequences. The folder she brought lay open on the desk, its contents already absorbed, already turning into action. You're certain? June asked. Yes, she said. They won't strike directly. They want proof. Proof that I don't matter, or proof that I do. And you intend to give them the latter. I intend to give them clarity, she replied. Not a spectacle. He studied her, pride and worry threading together in his gaze. Visibility invites risk. So does silence, she said gently. You taught me that. He nodded once. Then we proceed. The confrontation did not happen in an alley or a boardroom sealed from daylight. It happened where lies withered fastest, under observation, a public charity summit. Cameras, allies and rivals shoulder to shoulder, all smiles and careful words. A place where reputations were currency and rumor traveled faster than truth. Ariel arrived with June, not on his arm, not trailing behind, beside him. The room felt the shift immediately. Eyes turned. Whispers sparked and jumped. The question passed silently from mouth to mouth. Who is she, really? June answered without speaking. He listened when Ariel spoke. He deferred when she corrected a figure. He let her lead the conversation when negotiations edged toward the territory she knew best. Logistics, timelines, accountability. No shield. No mask. Equal. The first attempt came subtle. A suggestion framed with concern. A question designed to corner her into retreat. Ariel met it calmly. No, she said, voice steady. That won't work. Here's why. She laid out the facts, clean, precise, undeniable. The room stilled. A ripple of recalculation followed. The second attempt came sharper, a veiled insinuation about influence. June did not intervene. Ariel did. I don't borrow authority, she said evenly. I earn it. The silence that followed was different. It held. By the time the summit ended, the narrative had shifted, not because June had threatened, because Ariel had stood. The message traveled quickly. She did not break him. She strengthened him. Night settled softly over the penthouse. The city glowed, unaware of the quiet victory it had just witnessed. Ariel stood at the window, shoulders easing for the first time in weeks. You didn't rescue me, she said, half smiling. No, June replied, "You didn't need it." She turned to him. "I was terrified." "I know," he said. "I chose anyway." "Yes," he said, voice warm with something like awe. She stepped closer, the space between them familiar now, claimed not by force but by trust. "If I stay," she said, "it's because I want to build something, not hide inside it." He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Then stay. Build. With me." She searched his face, finding no armor there, only intention. "I will," she said. He leaned in, resting his forehead against hers, breath mingling, the city humming beneath them. The kiss that followed was gentle, unhurried, a promise rather than a claim. Two people choosing the same future. The weeks that followed remade the penthouse. Not louder, not softer, truer. Ariel's presence settled into space like light finding its way through glass. Meetings ended earlier. Laughter, quiet, rare, found corners to live in. Marcus visited, cautious at first, then curious, then comfortable, discovering that safety could look like consistency instead of fear. June slept more. Ariel worked, not as a symbol, not as a shield, but as a partner with a mind the world had underestimated. She did not erase his darkness. She gave it purpose. They learned each other in small, deliberate ways. Shared mornings, late conversations, disagreements handled without dominance. Love, they discovered, was not a dramatic surrender. It was maintenance. Choice renewed. On a clear night, months later, Ariel stood on the balcony again, the city breathing beneath her. June joined her, wrapping a jacket around her shoulders without a word. "Do you regret it?" he asked. She considered the question, the path that led them here, the fear, the leaving, the return. "No," she said. "Do you?" He smiled, genuine and unguarded. "I regret not choosing sooner." She leaned into him, the world steady at their backs. In the end, nothing had saved them. They had saved themselves. Together. "Thank you for listening to Please Don't Fire Me," the black cleaner whispered. The Korean Mafia billionaire froze, seeing her asleep. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world. Until next time, Red Heart.